Hello, good evening. Welcome to Secure the Continent. I am Dapo Adegboye. This is where we keep you up to speed as regards the security situations across the African continent. But before today's discussion, let's take a look at some of the top security headlines across Africa. Of course, the first being Somali security forces say all 5 Al-Shabaab fighters involved in Somalia's Sahel hotel have been killed. And UNICEF warns of catastrophic loss of lives in Sudan as famine looms. Military vows to rescue abducted schoolchildren in Kaduna, Nigeria. And President Ruto pledges 1,000 strong police force for Haiti after transitional presidential council is formed. Don't go anywhere, we will be right back. Welcome to the program. This is still Secure the Continent. Now, before we get into the crux of today's conversation with borders around the security situation currently in Nigeria, let's take a look at this intro package.
Nigeria, already grappling with mass killings, terrorism, and economic crisis, is experiencing a renewed surge in kidnappings for ransom. The most recent wave began with the abduction of over 280 students from a school in Kuriga, Kaduna State. This was swiftly followed by the kidnapping of 61 people, mostly women and children, also in Kaduna. Additionally, roughly 200 internally displaced persons were abducted in Borno State and nearly 60 people were taken in Bida. Amnesty International reports that nearly 750 people were kidnapped in the first 2 weeks of March alone. While mass adoptions of children had decreased over the past year, kidnappings overall have become increasingly common in Nigeria. Worsening economic conditions and rising poverty are seen as contributing factors. Local authorities report that the kidnappers of the Kuriga students demanded a 1 billion ransom, but President Tinubu has reaffirmed the government's zero-tolerance policy for ransom payments. These abductions have a devastating impact. Children are pulled from education, families are fractured, communities are left deserted, and fear permeates daily life. Urgent action is needed to curb this menace. How can this menace be curbed and ended for good?
Really dire situation in Nigeria when it comes to security, as kidnapping and abduction is taking headway across some parts of the country. Well, to make sense of this, we are joined on the program by Alex Okonkwo, security expert or analyst from Lagos, and also Adams Abel, Managing Director and CEO, Otiyeke Universal Security. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Good evening, Dapo. Good evening.
All right. We also have Ladi Thompson, a security expert, joining from the United States. Well, let me start off with this. To you, of course, Alex, what do you make of the recent, abductions that we're seeing across some parts in Nigeria? Is it a resurgence of what we saw during the Chibok girls, where it was, mass abductions, particularly of school children, and a replay of the past?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Okay, I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
That's the first thing.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Can.
Okay, so it's let's not use the word resurgence, because what simply happened was that we kept the news away from us while we were tackling the elections last year, and it has come back to haunt us. Just to give you a fact, this is just a fact. Between July 2022 and July last year, we had close to, I don't want to get it wrong, the exact figure, 3,600 issues of kidnapping. I repeat that, 3,600 kidnappings. That's between July 2022 and July 2023. That's the last figures we have. That's quite a lot. It's just that we didn't care during that period because we were tackling the election. You know how the election ended. So people were not sure. We went to court and all that. So we all pushed it to the background. It wasn't that it wasn't happening. It was happening already at a massive level. But we, in our mindset, kept it behind. So there's no resurgence. What is happening is that problems that we have not tackled, we shouldn't be surprised that it comes back to haunt us. We've not done anything to stop kidnapping. We've not. The
sorry,
economy is
you
not
said
better.
you
In
said
fact, at some point.
You said the Nigerian government hasn't done anything to solve kidnapping over the years.
No, we. No, I said we.
Okay,
all of us.
we
It's
in
not
what
just
context?
The government thing. All of us.
Is it citizens or the government or a combination of both? All of the actors?
Well, it's a combination of both, even including non-state actors and even international community. We is we, because we're not going to solve that problem alone. The government cannot solve that problem alone. Any government, actually. And I've always said this, it has always given me some kind of reputation. I've gone to several stations, radio stations and TV stations, and I've said it's not a military solution only. And it's not a police solution only. It's not a citizen solution only. Everybody has to come down and sit down and look at the solutions from the root of the problem. Look, Dapo, if you still have Amajari students coming out at the age of 16 without knowing what to do, and there are millions of them, what are you expecting them to be when they become 30 years old? What are the solutions you're proposing to them? The hawkers you're seeing in the streets of Lagos, when they're 25, selling those phone cases that cost 1,000 naira, what is the guy going to become when he's 35? What are his chances of integrating the society? Is he not going to fall into crime? Is kidnapping just not a part of crime? It's just one social crime, just like banditry, just like stealing, just like armed robbery, just like rape, just like So if you're not solving the social problems, that's stop by itself. I think we should look at these things collectively. That's why I said we, and that we is really everybody's involved. Of course, government is in the front line. Government is number one. We all have to face the leadership, but we're all involved at different levels. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, let me go to Ladi Thompson. Let me get your expert view on this. What do you make of the kidnappings that we're seeing, particularly in recent times, and abductions across some parts of Nigeria? And just like what, of course, the first speaker said, do you think that we haven't done anything to abate the situation over the years?
Thank you very much. I think what I just can't call his name right now. The young man before me said right now is spot on. I think he has a fairly accurate capture of what is going on. However, we need to expand it a bit more. Through the years, we have said something. Before a medical doctor can describe a cure for a sickness, you have to, first of all, accurately diagnose what your problem is. Now, the architecture of thought at play in the local face of a global problem that showed up in Nigeria and has been in Nigeria from like 1990s, and it has followed the normal pattern expected. The challenge we have is that the architecture of thought at play in Nigeria does not have the capacity that's proven itself over the years, that we don't have the capacity to diagnose properly. And just like, when Nigerian presidents have a sickness that the Nigerian healthcare system cannot handle, the tendency is to outsource thinking. Unfortunately, when it comes to the hydra of global terrorism in its local expressions, it's very dangerous to outsource your thinking. So this really is the challenge, is that we don't realize we're dealing with a hydra. We don't realize that we're dealing with something that has multiple heads. We don't realize that we're dealing with something that's extremely brilliant. It has global resources in terms of architecture of thought. And like the consultant before me said, the challenge here is that kinetics, at best, you see, the traditional response in Nigeria from the average citizen and the knee-jerk reaction of the government is that kinetics, that's the military aspect of it. At best, when this problem shows up anywhere in the world, kinetics doesn't solve.
Okay, so for you,
of it.
So for you feel that more of the kinetic approach is required than the not kinetic approach when resolving these issues? Well, we'll come to the aspect of
No,
solutions.
no. Maybe you didn't hear me properly.
Okay. Would you
At
like to please?
best,
Okay.
at best, from what he said, at best, kinetics doesn't solve more than 36%, at 40% of this problem. For this problem to be solved, you need a lot more robust. Your response has to be very robust. It's a threat. It's a hydra that collapses nations from within. And when we say a hydra, it means that it has a warhead in education, it has a warhead in politics, it has a warhead in governance, it has a warhead in practically all the institutes that propped up, the nation. So until you understand this, look, President Goodluck Jonathan, even in his own days, had mentioned that right there in his cabinet, this warhead was already available. So when you begin to look at these things with the kind of, don't forget that at a time in Nigeria, you would capture Boko Haram terrorists, you rename them bandits. Don't forget that media is a force multiplier. And what you don't know is that at that time they would claim to have, debriefed them and then absorb them into the Nigerian army. I mean, I never heard a more stupid thing in my life before. But don't forget that it's the same nation where an Al-Qaeda sympathist, open, was able to function as a federal minister in 8 years of, the previous administration before this one.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry, I might need you to backtrack a bit. You said it's the same measure that what exactly?
Same measure in terms of, I don't get where we're putting back.
No, you said you said same measure an Al-Qaeda sympathist functioned at the helm of government.
It's the same country in which an Al-Qaeda sympathist who used to make contributions on the Al-Qaeda website served as a federal minister successfully for two terms, and nothing happened to him.
I'm sorry, but we might just need clarification on that because that's pretty weighty.
Well, there's nothing weighty about this. You need to do your homework. Like I say to you, media is a force multiplier in the global resurgence of war against terror. This is not my first time of seeing this on television in Nigeria. In fact, at the time when it was being appointed and being confirmed, I remember that we waged a serious look. I served 4 CAN presidents, generations of Christian Association of Nigeria presidents as special advisor in this area specifically. And I will tell you that at the point in time when they were going to appoint that fellow and, give him such an important portfolio, we pointed out that while he was a lecturer in ATBU in Abaka Tafawa Balewa University, he was then in charge of the mosque. He gave a fatwa. Go and do your research. Sunday was the name of the student.
I want to believe you have evidence to actually back that up, strong evidence. But let's slightly move away from that. Let's talk about the root causes.
I don't even want us to quibble about this. These are minor issues. There's a bigger dimension to this whole thing. And if your architecture of thought, the challenge in Nigeria, again, is part of it, I'm telling you, is also the media. The media has to grow up some and understand that there's an architecture of thought required to handle this problem. And if even the media itself does not grow up to learn what to do and how to do research and how to, how to focus and report in a way that denigrates rather than escalates.
But you also understand that, sorry, but there's also the aspect of being able to back sufficiently whatever allegations or whatever assertions.
I don't make allegations when I speak as a consultant, so don't worry yourself about that. These are open secrets that everybody, there's nothing, it's only the fact that justice is not always done within our system in Nigeria. There's no big deal about anything.
Anyway, let's look at the root causes of many of these issues. It appears like it roves in circles. So there's usually a period where everywhere seems calm, and it looks like some of these insurgents, maybe they've gone on sabbatical, and all of a sudden they come back in full force, and it looks like the country is moving in circles. Looking at the root causes of some of these problems, what do you think is responsible for this? I'm still with you, Ladi.
Okay. The other consultant told you something earlier on, that what you are calling a resurgence is no resurgence. The truth is this, is that when a hydra is snuffing out life from a nation, it does it in 4 phases. And like I said to you, media itself is a force multiplier. So during elections, the reportage of media, is put to the back burner, because you are dealing with something that also has influence in media. So if you're going to look at it holistically and with more accuracy and with proper research done, you will find out that it has never let up. You are dealing with a hydra. What it does is that it switches its war front from head to head at times. So if there's any illusion that we're going in circles, it's simply because we have not understood what we are dealing with yet. It has never relented. The statistics has always been terrible, but you know that the ability of the African in general to mathematize inquiry is abysmal. So what he said to you earlier on, I want you to hold on to it. It has never let up. The reporting has changed. Reporting styles have changed because there's influence even in media. And if a president can admit openly that in his cabinet there's the influence there, what is the big deal about admitting that media is compromised in a nation that is known to have a very high level of corruption in every institute, including media?
I'm sorry. You keep tackling the media. You used the word right now. You said media is compromised. But I can also tell you that the media is doing its very best in ensuring that information is out there. We've had colleagues that have gone through hell and back, in this particular struggle. So, I think that statement might be rather, very much unfair on the media, but we'll continue to try our best. I'm still with you, Ladi, but maybe I should just give Adam some time to respond to some of the things that you have said. And the fact that it also appears that some of this, will I call it insurgents right now, the abductors and all of that, they seem to be daring. I mean, the recent one, we understand that those that, abducted the Kaduna pupils are demanded as high as ₦1 billion. I mean, you look at demands like this, that's just in monetary form. There are also, other demands in terms of motorcycles, buses, and all of that. And then you ask yourself, what is giving these people the temerity to place such demands and even, abduct more students? Adam.
You mean Alex? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so you mean Alex, but you said Adam. That's why I didn't know. I thought there was somebody else. Okay, so if let me take that as a question. Now, the reality is this: we haven't done anything to change the situation. So don't expect any miracles. Let me follow up with your question. These guys are foot soldiers. I have to tell you something. The kidnapping in Nigeria is evolving very, very fast. We have foot soldiers who are actually doing the kidnapping. Funds finally get there, and we have those who are arming other groups to go back there. So it is becoming more professional. It's a very tactical word to use, but I need to use it that way. Kidnapping in Nigeria is becoming very, very professional. They are evolving, okay, and so they are evolving with the society. They are negotiating better. They are more into internet, just like you and I. So they're very wary of what's going on. They know when Nigeria has a weak belly, because we massively in the last government on the conventional
I'm sorry,
terrorism
Alex.
that we have.
I'm sorry, I just need to cut in here.
In terms of ISWAP.
Alex, sincere apologies. I might just need to, of course, come in here a bit. We, of course, need to go on a commercial break. We will be right back. Stay with us. This is still Secure the Continent on New Central Television. And of course, today we are examining the abductions and recent kidnappings across some parts of Nigeria. To make sense of this, I still have with me on the program Alex Okonkwo, security analyst from Lagos, and also Ladi Thompson, a security expert from the United States of America. Gentlemen, thank you for hanging on. I will still stay with you, Alex. Before we went on that break, you were trying to actually explain what you consider reasons behind the, what I call it, temerity of many of these abductions we see, in spite of some efforts from the government to nip in the bud this situation. Would you like to, of course, conclude on that?
Okay, what I was saying before the break was that we must all realize that the situation of banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria is evolving daily. And these guys are getting more and more better. You have to also realize that some of these bandits have been fighting Nigeria one way or the other for the last 5 years. So they're actually a bit better. You know, we say practicing makes you better. You imagine a bandit who has been confronting the Nigerian army or the Nigerian police one way or the other since let's say 2010 or 2020. That's almost 4 years now. That guy is very strong. He's surviving in the bushes, almost like a Rambo. Let's not take these people for granted. These are people that are becoming well-trained over time. And we have something that has been happening since the Buhari era that people have not taken care of. Since we attacked Boko Haram and ISWAP frontally, and they even had some confrontations between themselves, it has created splinter groups. People have merchandised banditry. I'm talking to the bandits themselves. They've gone into the very, very profitable part of banditry, because being Boko Haram, what money was it bringing them? It was just an ideology. They were fighting the government and they were dying. But banditry brings in more money. If you successfully kidnap somebody, you can get 20 to 30 million and you share it in a group. You might just be 10 of you sharing it. And I must tell you, let us realize the enemy we have. We are not studying them enough. We're not researching them enough. We're not informing ourselves about themselves. I told you, I was saying earlier, there are foot soldiers. There are those in between, the middlemen. There are those negotiating. There are those arming them. And there's those informing them, and so on and so forth. As we speak, I am following a case of a very important personality who has been kidnapped for a while. And we suspect through the tracking that has been done that he's no more in a region of Nigeria where he was kidnapped, but in somewhere extreme, almost at the borderline with one of the countries in the north. I can't say the names because this is the security is a very tensive situation. This is a very important personality in government or in past government who has been kidnapped, and it's been going on for like 5 months or so. But he's not in the region where he was kidnapped. So people are moving. And apparently the initial kidnappers had sold him out to somebody else who is now negotiating. What I'm trying to say is that those who initially kidnapped him are not the ones asking for ransom. They've sold him out maybe for 5 million, and those ones are now negotiating for a bigger ransom. You see what I'm saying? So kidnapping is evolving. If we ourselves are not involved in our tactics, we will always be one or two steps behind.
I'm trying to understand the picture you painted. You said that a group kidnapped an individual and had leased him out to another group or sold him out to another group for an amount.
Yes.
And the new group right now is demanding. So it's like, it's a business model where a buyer gets a consignment, passes it to another.
Yes, it's a business. Dapo, that is why you've not seen anybody carrying gun like headsmen in a Ferrari. They are not the ones that get the money. These are foot soldiers. They have an AK-47. There is a rotting AK-47 from the Libyan wars and the Russian, Yugoslavian, this thing. And they are using it to kidnap people. What do you think? You think that those ones are negotiating with you? They don't even know what a SIM phone, a SIM card is. Once they've done their job of kidnapping the initial person or the students or whatever, they now get their 5 million naira or whatever, and they go and share it and drink and enjoy themselves and carry women and all that. You think they are not men like you and I? They carry women too, they drink as well. And then somebody else who is a bit smarter, who is a bit more organized, a bit more educated, I dare say, is now going to the deal trying to get 20 million. And I'm telling you of something, it's not social media, I'm telling you of something I'm involved indirectly, because I'm sort of working with the people who are trying to find this personality who is a known person to me. That's why I'm a little bit involved. But it's not a unique case.
This really, of course, is a revelation into something much deeper. But you talked about negotiation. I'd like to go to you, Ladi, at this point. Now, we know that a Kaduna-based Muslim cleric, that Sheikh Ahmed Gumion, recently sought the government's permission to approach and also have talks with bandits who abducted the over 200 school children from the Kuriga, government school. The issue of negotiation has come to the fore. This is not the first administration, of course, that will be hearing such conversations around. And this same figure in the last administration was at the forefront of pushing that Nigerian government negotiates with bandits, even though we know that this current administration has said that no dime will be paid, no form of negotiation will be done, in exchange for the students. I'd like to know your stance on the best approach in situations like this. Is negotiation the way to go? Or payment of ransom?
Let me take it from a more pungent or poignant, relevant point of view. Now, the individual that they are trying to appoint to negotiate on behalf of Nigeria, this is not the first time a government has tried to appoint him as a rapporteur. If you go and do your research, the last time that appointment was made, I had a public. Oh, by the way, I only happen to be in the United States of America. I'm here for a conference. I'm addressing a conference here. I'm fully Nigerian. Okay. Now, the individual you're talking about, the Sheikh, in his first tafsir when he returned from Saudi Arabia almost 20 years ago, go and find out his track line. Go and do a proper assessment of his contributions, find out where he's coming from, and you will see that you cannot carry a cat and put it in charge of meat. You see, so all these supposed things, like I keep saying, a nation that is corrupt, a nation that refuses to be thorough, a nation that cannot mathematize inquiry, cannot handle the sophistication. Now, what you were asking about before, there are three key players in Nigeria right now. I've been working on this from 1999, so listen carefully. The reason why people like us still talk at all is because we look at the future of you young ones and realize that if the older generations have not been able to handle it with what is needed, there may be hope that the younger generations who have a digital mindset may be able to better handle this issue. So we have the ISWAP, which is the most intelligent, is operating there. You have the so-called Fulani militia, and then you have what they call the Boko Haram. Go and do your studies over the past, like he said. There have been clashes in between and things like that, because it's no different. What you have there is a model that was created between 1990 and 1996 in Sudan by Osama bin Laden. It works like a cell structure system in the growth of churches. If you know what they call the cell structure system.
I understand.
And that's why you find out that
one
cell can grow large and powerful, more than others, and then there's competition in between. But the real intelligence of what he was just trying to tell you is that the real kidnappings, the template for the kidnappings, apart from the official players, you have those who are opportunists. The opportunists are a minority. But the template for it requires intelligence. You have to be able to understand these things before you even. That's why I keep saying to you that there needs to be more investment in the media to do some more studies of the architecture of thought so that you can actually play the proper role that a nation expects of the media. Look, if the challenge in the older media installations have not been able to handle this, we expect that the younger ones should be able to improve, being digital natives. So let me just say to you that I would rather we spoke more about the solution, because all these are symptoms.
No, definitely. We're still going to.
Not negotiating. He is right not to negotiate. Okay. And the last person you want to appoint to any position right now is Dr. Adegboye. Forget about it. In a normal nation where there's integrity, look, you don't even have to do anything. Even in the public domain alone, go and do your research on his utterances all along, his contributions. And you will wonder and ask yourself why anybody, knowing full well the nature of what the global resurgence and its local faces, would want to appoint him as a rapporteur, as was attempted before. And then he keeps coming back again to sort of morph himself to being a solution, because they believe that we are gullible, they believe that you are emotive, you are intuitive, you are unscientific, and you are incapable of critical thought. Or else it's even an atrocity. I speak like this because of the lives of the people that are involved. So Mr. President is right, there should be no negotiations, but that no negotiation should be followed up with a sweep of the Hydra. A sweep of the Hydra in all intelligence services, a sweep of the Hydra. Look, there are moles in high places, as admitted by former president openly. If the American 9/11 report spoke to you about how Osama bin Laden was host to Nigerians who came for training, while they were in Sudan, while they were creating the template for what you see that is going on, this global franchise with the local face. If all that is in place, tell me why we are still talking about this kind of things and not moving towards a solution with a more robust understanding and a deeper architecture of thought. Without which, listen, Nigeria is like a patient that has a symptom. The symptoms you can watch and you can predict where this is going. Any medical doctor will tell you. Let me tell you, the only reason why Nigeria is still standing is the size. You can't swallow Nigeria in one bite. And two, the colonial arrangement that was put into place, which was fractured, is part of what has upset this balance. So, Mr. President and the think tank groups, and like I like what the younger man was saying earlier on, this is not a problem that only the government can solve. It's too late. The shambolic model of democracy that we are practicing does not have what it takes. The political class does not have the will. It does, listen to me, the value of human worth is what these people play on. Is the clinical use of terror as an instrument to do what? To disable a nation from within. And as long as we are still, still running around in circles, not even understanding the basics of what we are dealing with, listen, there's a global policy that will blame it on desertification and all sorts of silly things. When 7/7 happened in London in 2005, look at how the British government responded. Look at how Madrid, look at how the Spanish government responded. Look at how every nation must look out for itself, bring its best to the fore, understand the problem, and do what has to be done. Or else, let me tell you point blank, I've been speaking in media in Nigeria now about this issue for about 18 years. Yeah, about 18 years. There's nothing that has changed about what I was saying from the beginning. And if we continue to play this game, and I'm telling you that even the role of the media has to be sharpened, you need to get consultants to come and do some more training in the media so that the media can play its proper role. So let's talk more of solution right now.
Okay.
If you ask me.
Ladi, of course, we will, of course, get to the solutions. But right now, let's go on a quick commercial break. When we return, of course, this time around, it's going to be more of the way forward. Stay with us. You're still watching Secure the Continent on News Central Television. And of course, we are discussing the abductions, recent abductions and kidnappings across some parts of Nigeria. I still have my guest with me. Of course, Alex and Ladi, who have been trying to, of course, give an insight and expert view on this issue. But let's move to solution-based approaches right now to this particular issue. I would still stay with you, Ladi. Particularly, I want your solutions to come in the area of policy and also, physical efforts too. What do you think Nigeria or the Nigerian government and even Nigerians themselves can do to improve the security architecture? And particularly also your take on self-defense, which of course has been an issue on the front burner, even on the floor of the House. Ladi, the question is for you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, good. Now, I said to you that first of all, you need to realize you are dealing with a hydra that is global. It has global intelligence, it has global reach, it has a local face. It's in education, it's in governance, it's in the military, it's to infiltrate, it works by infiltrating the institutes on which governance is based. It wears a religious cover, but it is not religious. So if you want to ask me, what do we do about it? You need to first of all, make sure you have what I call, you have to mathematize your inquiry to find out that the challenges like this were already predicted even in colonial days. Go into Nigerian archives, you find out there's something called the Mangin Papers that the French colonials sent to the British colonials, warning them of builds-ups like this and global resurgences like this. It didn't happen for all those years. But when the time of Osama bin Laden came, he was the one who took terrorism from being a local haphazard affair, as it was before, and turned it into a global franchise, created a template and created a global network and how to monitor the local. So what do we do? The solution is very simple. Fortunately for Nigeria, as the giant of Africa, on the 7th of October in 1960, the first prime minister of Nigeria offered the way forward. These men were astute statesmen who had a good understanding of what would come in the future. I'm talking about Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. In his address to the United Nations General Assembly in 1960, he mentioned something. He said, look, 1 week ago, if I remember his speech, which you can always pull up, he said Nigeria attained independence and 3 faiths came to pray. And he mentioned how that each faith was going to stay steadfast, and then diplomatically spoke about the troubles that will come in the future. He was speaking prophetically. And he said, when those troubles come, you must pull out something called eternal truths, eternal truisms, as your focus on policy to be able to solve these problems. Now, what was he talking about? It is an eternal truth. After he watched the way Nigeria was put together, he knew there would be troubles ahead. But he also knew that we can solve these problems as the giant of Africa. What was he talking about? An eternal truth is the fact that a lie, after 1,000 years, will remain a lie.
Okay.
An eternal truth is that two parallel lines, no matter how much you bribe them, will never meet. An eternal truth is that if you lay a foundation of deterministic chaos, like was laid for Nigeria, after a passage of 1,000 years, you cannot build a successful structure on it. What are they trying to tell you? If you go and listen and check the notes written by Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo, and the rest, they will tell you they knew they were not founding fathers of Nigeria. They were liberators. Now, the foundation Nigeria inherited, if Nigeria does not do what America did to that foundation, we were designed to continue to keep failing without falling. So we have to go back to eternal truths and sit down and realize that Nigeria of today that you're looking at is reckoned actually as two countries, Northern Nigeria and Southern Nigeria, till tomorrow. You need to realize that those who put Nigeria together were students of the Roman Empire.
I'm sorry to interject here, but I would just give you about 30 seconds to sort of wrap it up so that we can move to Alex and take his submission on the way forward.
Yes, I think you should move to Alex right away because you don't solve problems like this on 15 minutes discourse. My only problem is that I've watched this thing get worse decade after decade. I've listened to people cry. We've tended to widows. I've been in places where bombs are smoking from the earth. And I've always wondered to myself, what manner of Nigerians are we that by now, even the man who thinks he's secure in Lagos, the man who thinks he's secure in any part of the country, has not seen the handwriting of the wall. By the time this thing is through with us, nobody will have anything. I think you better move over to him.
All right. Alex, what do you consider the way forward? How do you think Nigeria in particular can come out of this very not so pleasant situation? And also your take on the issue of private ownership of arms.
Okay, well, let's be clear here. Let's at least talk of the things we should not do. Clearly, first thing, we should stop this fire brigade attitude. I happen to be not too far from Plateau State after their attack in December, if you remember, where quite a lot, I think over 30 people were killed. Mangu local government area was the most secured area in Nigeria at that period because all the units of the Nigerian Army were there. All units, infantry, artillery, they were all there. That is not going to help us. They've all left. I have to tell you, they've all left. So that means the place is prone to another attack. This must stop. This fire brigade attitude when something happens. I'm going to tell you now, in Kaduna, you won't be able to move 1 meter without seeing a soldier because they've all gone there since that attack and since the president has talked and that they must find those children. It's not going to work like that. We can't keep being 2 or 3 parts behind the bandits. It's not going to work. We should take a proactive stand. This is a bit more complex, like the consultant said earlier. It's a bit more complex, so it will take a bit more time. But I can tell you for sure what we should not do. The second thing we should not do is, of course, pay ransom, at least from the government level. And that's quite correct, and most of us will agree with that. Because that means you are actually putting the real monetary terms into the business. It's already a business, by the way. And then we are not doing, okay, you said about carrying of arms privately. You mean public, the public, general public carrying arms?
Yes, the general
I think that's
public.
what you mean, right?
Yes.
Did I get a question?
Yes.
Of course, if you don't want Nigeria to be like the bad side of the USA, please don't endeavor into that. You saw recently a video of somebody being shot in the New York metro because he's carrying guns. Now, don't misunderstand access to guns with the ability to carry it. It is one thing to have the license to have a gun, which you could keep at home, and then the idea of carrying it everywhere you're going. It could become a cowboy city. So you could have a gun at home, and if you're attacked outside, what do you do? Do you run home to get the gun? Or do we allow people to carry gun while they're going to supermarkets because they feel unsafe? And so everybody carries a gun everywhere. So you see, it's a little bit of a complex. Nigerians, first, we should not be too emotive about these things, and we should not try to find simple solutions to complex issues. I think the government should sit down, not just this government, every government, but this particular one, because they're in power now, should sit down and talk to people and find out how other countries have done it. I've said one thing, and that's the only thing I'll say here. I've been saying it for like 4 years now. We should create a rapid intervention group. When these people were taking 287 students in a few days ago, I mean, they must have used several trucks, or if it was bikes, hundreds of bikes. Are you telling me nobody saw it, nobody had it, there is no image, there's nothing? In this country where everybody's taking a picture when they are even just having their bath, where nobody had pictures, there's no testimony, nothing about 280 students were taken away? Come on, there's something wrong here. So I think we should have an intervention force like other countries have. They have it like the court in Brazil, they have the Black Cobra in Egypt, they have the Cobra unit in India. These are units, specialized police units. They're not soldiers, but they're police units that are specialized, almost like the SWAT, and they're ready to intervene when things happen. So we cannot keep doing, you will see what will happen tomorrow. All the Chihuahua staff will be in Kaduna. How does that help us if the next kidnapping is going to happen in Niger State? Is it going to be traveling around the country? So there should be very serious solutions that will take a bit of time, but that should be well constructed. It's difficult to say just
Alex,
like this
I'm sorry, I just
program,
need to cut
but there's so
here.
many things to be done.
Yes, I'm sorry, I need to cut in here. We are pressed for time. But gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the program today. Alex Okonkwo, security analyst from Lagos, and also Ladi Thompson, security expert from the United States of America, who of course said is a full-blooded Nigerian resident here. We deeply appreciate your time. Thank you once again, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend.
All right.